She's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching out there on YouTube. Also, make sure to rate 5 stars anywhere you get your podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports and you can find us out there. We are live right after the Chicago Bears' unfortunate defeat to the Green Bay Packers 27-10 at Lambeau Field. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be breaking down 10 key takeaways and also just some overall thoughts of the game and 3 hot takes on offense and 3 hot takes on defense. But guys, as we always do, we're going to be breaking down some highlights and some lowlights. Let's not be too down on this team. Let's talk about what went well and also just some of the things that we need to continue to work on with this team. We projected in the preview that the Bears were going to be losing this game, and guess what? A loss is a loss, right? Now you come back with this and you just keep building. It's almost impossible to beat Aaron Rodgers when he's lost a game. He's actually been undefeated over the past handful of years. So it felt like this was going to happen, and it did. And we can move on and let's take away some good things and some bad things. But see, no matter what, we will still take the North and never give it back. That's where, for those watching on YouTube, you can see down in the description, now we have Unbearable merch. So you can look at it, unbearablesports.shop. And we have some Take the North shirts, some awesome stuff out there. So you got to check it out. I'm actually going to buy a whole bunch of it. I think it looks super cool. And for those watching, and for those listening, it's just going to be out inside of the description for the show. So you could just go there. Also, you can always search for unbearablesports.shop. Helps out the show. Also, we donate some of the proceeds to the Thorn organization that helps fight human trafficking. But guys, just the overall thoughts. Reload out here saying the defense sold. To me, the overall thoughts on this is Rodgers is going to do what he does. And at Lambeau Field especially, the only thing that stinks is that there was a lot of things that just left you with a bad taste in your mouth. I think that's where some of the sourness comes in with this game. The quarterback draw on 4th and inches, which the ball went over the line. And what's crazy is when we hear them talking about the game, they're like, you can see that the hand is over. It breaks the field of play. You can't really see the ball. Actually, the ball's right behind the hand, which also goes past the plane. So it's like, yeah, so that is a touchdown. So I don't get why they went with the whole shotgun thing. It doesn't make much sense out there. And it just, why? It is the question. Like, why? There was a lot of those plays. Why are we doing this? And also with David Montgomery, with the running game, all of a sudden you have something that's looking great. And all of a sudden they kind of move away from it. And that's where it just kind of gets you scratching your head. But also the defense, when you're allowing 203 rushing yards, makes it hard to root. It makes it hard for you to be excited for this Bears defense, which we've said there might be some deficiencies at the run defense of this team. But we'll break that down. But let's just look through some of the stats. So overall, we only had 48 passing yards when you factor in the 3 sacks. But basically, Justin Fields, 7 completions, 7 for 11 for 70 yards, 1 interception, sacked 3 times. Aaron Rodgers, 234 passing yards on 19 of 25, and got 2 touchdowns, sacked 3 times as well. And when we were running the football, we ran 27 times, 180 yards, 6.7 yards a carry. David Montgomery averaged 8.1 yards a carry. Khalil Herbert, 9.5 yards. It's insane. You flip over to the other side, Green Bay Packers, and we allowed 203 rushing yards at a 5.3 yards a carry clip on 38 carries, and they had 1 touchdown. Aaron Jones, 8.8 yards average. A.J. Dillon, only 3.4. But when you look at just the stats, you see kind of what I felt like we all felt, that the running was working for the Bears. So we got all excited super early. So let's actually start breaking down just the offensive side of the ball. So overall, let's be happy about this run success, right? This run attack, we saw both Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery do great. Khalil Herbert kind of struggled right out the gate, but was able to kind of follow it up. He only had 4 carries for 38 yards, but at 9.5 yards a clip, awesome. Longest was 27 yards. Did a very good job there. But you flip it over to David Montgomery, 15 carries, 122 yards, 8.1 yards average, long of 28 yards, where he was just battling and fighting. It was unbelievable. And the running game seemed to be that was what was going on. And I think our frustration today is that the Bears should have just stuck with the running game. And you saw them, even the announcers kind of say that. Like, why did they kind of go away from this? Why did they move away from what was working and try to kind of get a little bit more pass happy, a little bit more screens? I still need to rewatch this. I'm going live right after the game. So I haven't been able to rewatch any of this tape. But I think that's the biggest question is why did they kind of move away from this, right? Why did they move away from that run heavy attack? Because later on, we saw that succeed. We saw that do well. And honestly, let's take this high note. The running attack looked great. The run blocking was good. We said that we need to run the football in order to win games. And last game, it was like, all right, is David Montgomery broken? Or is Khalil Herbert the lead guy? What's going on? And now you have both running backs averaging over 8 yards a carry. Awesome. Awesome job there. Awesome job run blocking. Let's give a round of applause there for a game that we lost by 17. Let's take the good out of it. But now let's move to another piece. Something that has bugged me with this offense. Second and long, we always run either a run or a screen. Now, I know someone might point out that, hey, they ran it on second and long, like second and 20, and David Montgomery broke a 28-yard carry, right? But that's 100% on David Montgomery. David Montgomery broke so many tackles and was unbelievable. For the most part, you shouldn't be doing that. There was a level of this offense where it seemed like a lack of urgency. Like the announcer said it. We're just waiting. The Bears are just like waiting till the end of the game where they can kind of show that they're dominant, right? They can just show what they're capable of. And that's where I didn't love that. I know and understand the wanting to establish the run, but it doesn't make a lot of sense when it's second and 15 and you run the football and you get 6 yards, which is a really good run. But now it's third and 8. Now it's still a long drive. And that's the thing that I don't agree with. And Sam I am agrees with here. Yeah, straight facts. Like, because it is. It's you have a good running game and a good carry, but you're still like 8 yards away. And that's the thing that's just frustrating. So, and then my third point, we've already talked about this a little bit. The QB draw that was a touchdown, but we didn't see the actual touchdown itself. They didn't give it to us. There was a lot of questionable calls. I don't want to get into it that much because it's the Packers, right? Like it always seems whenever we play the Packers, especially in Lambeau, calls go their way. I think last year, Johnny PayPal and I, we played Are You Smarter Than a Green Bay Official, where everything was just going their way, right? But honestly, it just felt bad. It was just difficult. And the QB draw didn't make much sense, especially when you were able to get yards at will. I think that's where it's painful. Just run a QB sneak or something, or just talk about this later on. Go over the top. Try to put the ball over. Don't just try and bulldoze behind your lineman because you're only going as far as that lineman can potentially go. So it's difficult. It's difficult for sure. So as I am gaming, wonder how much Aaron paid them refs. And I told one of my buddies, I'm like, I don't know what it is. Maybe he's their dealer. Maybe Rodgers is dealing them some drugs on the side or something. But not enough. I mean, obviously they gave him enough, but we'll see. But let's move over to my fourth point. My big question here, my big takeaway is what the heck are the wide receivers doing? Because it seems like even when Fields had time, it seemed like the ball wasn't getting out. The ball wasn't moving. So what I want to do is, yet again, I want to look at the all 22 And I'll probably talk about it on Thursday's show, that what are they doing out there? Why is nobody open? Why is Justin Fields not throwing it? Is it a wide receiver fault? Is it a play call fault? Or is it Fields not processing fast enough to kind of go through some of his reads? Because there was times where Fields would kind of go like 1, 2, and then the pocket would kind of collapse and he would have to do something. Now, 2 seconds is not a lot of time to go through your reads, but still it's that kind of the poor pass protection and offensive line. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great by any means, right? So if you have this kind of subpar offensive line play with the O line pass blocking, then and your quarterback needs to speed up processing, it just makes it a little bit difficult. But I'm just curious what the wide receivers were doing out there, because Equinemius St. Brown, 2 catches on 4 targets, 39 yards. Ryan Griffin, 1 catch, 18 yards. And Darnell Mooney, 1 catch, -4 yards. Ouch. It's difficult. It didn't look good. We only threw it 11 times. Now, how many passing plays we had? Definitely more than that. But still, like, that's not good. It seemed like anytime that we were running the football, it just did not look good. And we just got to see. We got to I got to watch the tape. I want to see what the wide receivers, what the tight ends are doing. But here, we thought that Cole Kmet was going to have a good game, because he should against these linebackers. 1 target for nothing because he dropped it. So it was just a bad overall game when it came down to the passing game. We needed to establish it, and we just did not allow it to happen. Now, going back to my key takeaways, fifth, the Green Bay Packers wanted to limit Fields. They wanted to limit that big playability, and that's what they did. They understood that, hey, if Fields gets out of the pocket, he's going to make you pay. That's a big part of his game. And what did they do? You saw it. They always kept people around him. They kept a spy on him, and they said, you have to beat us passing the football. That's what a lot of teams go in saying, you have to beat us passing the football. And he wasn't really able to do it. 7 for 11, still good, but it just seemed like nothing would happen as soon as we started trying to pass the football. That's just the big takeaway. And with Fields, you're going to see more and more defenses try this and dare Justin Fields to beat them from inside the pocket. If we need to win, if we want to win games, it's going to be that. It's going to be wide receivers getting open. It's going to be quicker passes, because when the pocket collapses, we're not able to do much. So really, this offense just kind of struggled out there overall, except for that running game. So hey, I'll at least take a good game of seeing this running attack out there. So I'm excited for it. But let's go to my 3 overreactions for the game. This is where I scour the web, I see what people are posting out there, and also I add my own little extra flavor to it. So I want to know what you guys think about these hot takes. So the first hot take that I saw out there is pay David Montgomery. Man deserves his bag. That's what I was seeing out there on Twitter. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. But to me, I pumped the brakes on this. I pumped the brakes on paying Montgomery, because I'm still not a fan of paying running backs. I know Montgomery was the tone setter, that he was bulldozing people, that he was doing all this, but you see in other games where he's can be somewhat of a non-factor. I think that this is also quick to jump the gun. Let's see more games out of him. Did he look phenomenal? Yes. Did he look like he could run block, he could catch, he could run? Everything. Yes. But do you pay a running back top dollar? You should not get into a habit of paying running backs top dollar. So let's pump the brakes on that. Wait a couple more weeks, and hopefully you can just get that stuff out of David Montgomery. But you still look at this. Khalil Herbert, 4 carries, 38 yards. Still a very good stat line for Khalil Herbert. So I just want to kind of bring that up too, that Herbert's not as flashy, but Herbert still gets good production at the running back position. But awesome day by David Montgomery. But also going to the next thing, we have another bad play caller. I saw this a lot out there that, okay, we got another bad play caller out here. What are we going to do? Right. And I feel like because this is the second week that we saw a similar game plan where basically we didn't see a lot of switching. We didn't see a lot of running. Like we just saw a lot of the same, like the running and the screens on second down and long, which you should not do. And we saw more of that. And I yet again, I want to go back and I want to watch the tape and see just what happened in the secondary. Were they just locking everybody down? Were we not running anything? Were we running max protect? I just saw it live like the rest of you guys. And I'm pumping the brakes, but I'm easing off a little bit more. I think that this has some steam. I'm not worried, but or I have a little bit of worry, like, okay, what's going on here? But at least we have next week against the Texans. The Texans still have a good defense. They still played very well against, I believe, the Denver Broncos today. And it's something that we definitely need to be on the lookout for. But another thing, too, I forgot to go through the injuries. Reload said, yeah, we need Velus Jones back. I think that especially from a return perspective, Velas's speed is a game changer. Do I think honestly that it changes much on the offensive side? I don't really think so. I think it can bring a different dimension for sure that can throw people off. But it's yet again like what's going on with this offense and the wide receivers. So we should see. We should see overall what ends up going on. But the last last hot take is this offense is hopeless. I saw this out here. I saw a lot of people saying this. This is the last hot take for offense. And honestly, it's way too early. It's way too early to just throw this offense under the bus. I don't believe it because we have a quarterback in Justin Fields that you even saw today. He has his left foot out as he's kind of taking those shotgun snaps. What he's doing is he's learning. He's getting better and better and better. And I think that you're going to see a different Justin Fields at the end of this year than at the very beginning of this year because that's just how he is. He's not going to just the offense is not going to look this stale all the time. And yet again, give the Packers some credit. They're coming out after a bad loss saying we have to win this in front of our home crowd. Think about it like the 49ers game. We went out there because we wanted to show them who was boss in our home. The Packers were doing the exact same thing. So you got to give credit to just the matchup and what was happening on the field. But I don't think that this offense is hopeless. I think that this offense is going to progressively get better. And I think now you have a first-time play caller with Luke Getsy that's going to be looking at this going, you know what? Maybe I should have been running it a little bit more. Maybe these pass plays didn't really work. And hopefully he starts getting it. So that's where it's not hopeless. It's just let's give it week after week after week because yet again, the way that I'm treating this season, this isn't playoffs or bust. This is progression. Do you see the progression with the offensive line? Do you see progression with Justin Fields? Do you see progression with this staff? That's what's key out here. And I think Luke Getsy, it wasn't the prettiest game for him. So let's just keep on going. But guys, running attack, let's go. Like it was awesome. It was promising to see that going. And now hopefully the passing offense can kind of silence some doubters out there because it hasn't looked good in 2 games, but one was a monsoon and the other one was this game that we just saw. But let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball. We've gone through the offense. Let's switch over to the defense. And honestly, this defense, we only forced 2 punts, so it wasn't pretty. You're going against yet again, he kind of ticked off Aaron Rodgers. At the very beginning, he kind of had some bad passes. We also were able to stuff the run pretty well. And honestly, I also want to give credit where credit is due. We saw a great performance by Trevis Gibson. Trevis Gibson, someone that we were worried about, did not play well in the preseason. Also, did play too great in last week's game. But this game, he was hitting the quarterback. ESPN has him for 3 quarterback hits, 2 tackle for losses, 2 sacks, 4 total tackles. Just a really good play out there from Trevis Gibson overall. So Trevis, great game. I want to give him credit because our backup defensive ends, that's something to be positive about. We know Dominique Robinson and we know that Trevis Gibson's out there. So that was my number 6 takeaway. But just because I brought up Dominique Robinson, I actually want to jump to my ninth takeaway, which is the lack of Dominique Robinson snaps. Why wasn't he out there? You see this amazing game that he had last week, and now we don't see him, but we see Kingsley in there a little bit. Now, I really haven't watched much of Kingsley. I saw him a little bit, but it's like you already have some good players out there that I would like to see Dominique Robinson out there a little bit more rather than by putting in like Kingsley or, just like switch it up, get some fresh bodies out there so that they can kind of run people down. So I wanted to see a little bit more, but we did not see much of Dominique Robinson because I don't know why. Like, I think that was a bad coaching move, I think, overall by just not having him out there because I wanted to see him. I wanted to see him play. We all wanted to see him play, but at least we saw Travis Gibson get 2 sacks and Robert Quinn get 1 sack against Yash Nijman, who was the backup left tackle, who honestly has played solid in Bakhtiari's absence. But still, you have Travis Gibson getting 2 sacks on Elton Jenkins. So a banged up Elton Jenkins, but still a good player. So bravo to him. Honestly, a very good play from those guys. My number 7 point, though, if I go back to my list, the rookie defensive backs did struggle. They did. And I'm looking at the stat line. You have Jaquan Brisker with 10 tackles, which you see that and you're like, oh my God, Brisker, way to go. But when you watch what was going on, it was pretty evident that Aaron Rodgers wanted to go after Kyler Gordon, and he did. Now, Kyler Gordon did get a pass deflection, and he did make a couple good plays. But I think overall, though, you still saw some rookie mistakes. And I think that we've talked about Kyler Gordon a little bit. He's not a polished product. He's not a finished product, but you could tell that, hey, we're going to pick on the rookie today and we're going to just try and attack that matchup. And they did. And I think also Gordon missed a couple tackles. There was a couple plays where he should have made the tackle and it would have been a big stop, but instead missed it. And that was another big piece is we had a lot of missed tackles today. And I know Jaquan Brisker is known as like the tackling strong safety guy. But in 3 games that we have seen, my biggest concern with Jaquan Brisker is his tackling. Because when you watch it, there was a handful of plays where he should have made the play. There was one that he should have made the tackle behind the line of scrimmage, didn't, and the guy ends up getting 8 yards. I believe it was an Aaron Jones run. There's a handful of plays out there that Brisker was just missing tackles. And that's something that I'm not like, oh my God, Brisker's going to suck now. It's just something that Brisker needs to get better at. And it's something that we said last week we're going to try and monitor. And I was monitoring it this game, and still, same thing. Brisker just missing some tackles. He needs to hunker down, make some of those big plays. So that's just something that I'm slightly worried about with Brisker just going forward. Hopefully he can kind of get down and make some big plays. Yes, 10 tackles, but it's a stat line, but he should have been making more. I don't care what he ends up with. It's just he needs to make the tackles when he's there and bring down the carries, because that's the difference between like 8 yards or so, 4 yards, whatever it might be. So Brisker just tighten things up a little bit when it comes down to the tackles. But let's go to my takeaway number 8. I was honestly impressed with the defensive line's penetration. I was. I thought that it was a good job by the D tackles, where I have been critical of these D tackles. I thought Angelo Blackson had a pretty good game and was able to knife in the backfield a couple times. Now, yet again, without rewatching some of this game tape, it seems sometimes they would knife in a little bit too much, and it would kind of throw off the play because they weren't able to make the actual play. But I thought a lot of times I almost blame the linebackers rather than the defensive linemen. I thought that the defensive line did play well for the most part, but I do think that there's a handful of plays out there that I see a Roquan Smith not making the tackle, not making the play that he needs to. And it's another week where I didn't see the linebackers as much as I wanted to. Yet again, looking at the stat line, you have Roquan Smith with 11 tackles and Morrow with 11 tackles, but Roquan Smith only has 5 solo tackles, Morrow with only 7. So Roquan Smith, a lot of the assist out there, he's always going to be flying out there, and that might be how he's getting some credit. but also they ran it 38 times. When you're running it that many times and that you get that many plays that they had, it's just going to add up on a lot of tackles. I overall was not impressed by these linebackers yet again stuffing the run. That is my biggest fear, and it still seems like people can attack the outsides and get a lot of yards whenever they're, running like someone in motion and they can kind of get to the outside. It always seemed like that's when people start to get and do their damage on this defense. So overall, though, like, and actually just going on the same thing, I wasn't that impressed with Al-Qadim Muhammad today. I know that he's kind of the big effort guy, but when you have a Travis Gibson who's doing very well today, and you have a Dominique Robinson who balled out last week, and it makes you kind of go, well, Al-Qadim, he's supposed to be this run stuffer, but on the touchdown carry, you saw him knife inside when maybe he should have been trying to seal the edge a little bit better and try and make it so that he can't just easily run to the outside because there's literally no one to the right of him. So it's just something that it's just hard. And maybe I hope that the coaching staff, what they can do is they can look at this and try and analyze it, saying maybe they used your aggression to your advantage. And that's the reason why they were able to run it so well on you. Because you see, like an AJ Dillon, he was not able to do anything. He's more of a slower power guy, while Jones is more of a I'll bust it out and more speed, quickness type of guy. So that could speak a lot to the aggressiveness of this defense, just not necessarily coming through. But the last little takeaway that I have, number 10, Jalen Johnson is still the best, right? Like I wanted to end on a happy note with these takeaways. Jalen Johnson, yet again, I don't think he was targeted at all. Jalen Johnson just continues to do well, and I like what I see out of him. I think that we wanted him to take a step up in this play to impress his coaching staff, and I think that Jalen Johnson is doing a very good job at that. So I want to just give some kudos to Jalen Johnson for still being a very good corner out there. So bravo, Jalen. And Vildor, it was okay. Nothing terrible. But like I said, they were trying to go after Kyler Gordon. But Jalen Johnson, though, played well. We have someone good on that outside corner spot. And even like Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson came in and made some pretty good tackles. Now, I know there was one where he popped Christian Watson. It wasn't a full tackle, but I think that Eddie Jackson, he's at least flying out there a little bit more and making some tackles from at least as much as I saw. But the run defense, it still didn't do great. In the pass defense, I felt like it was mainly Rodgers at the very beginning, not doing I think that he was under some duress. And I swear, I don't think that he missed a single pass in the second half. But let's go to our overreaction. So yet again, 3 overreactions that I saw out in the Twitterverse and also wanted to bring to our attention. So number one overreaction. We cannot stop the run. We saw this with 49ers and we see this with the Packers. We can't stop the run. Now, let me know what you guys think, but I think it's a little brutal. It's still something that I was worried about with this team when we started. We have light linebackers. Nicholas Morrow is fast, but he's a very lightweight linebacker. I think overall it's the discipline. I think that at the very beginning we were doing well, and I think we're very disciplined inside, but I think and Alan Williams needs to look at this defense and say, why are we giving up so much on the outsides? What's going wrong when they break it out to the outsides? Is it our defensive ends? Because when you have a Robert Quinn that likes to rush the passer and likes to blow by his guy, and even Al-Qadim Muhammad was not really sealing the edge. And that's where I kind of look at that side of the football and the run stuffing and say, I still think that you can fix this. But honestly, I'm not as worried about the defensive tackles as much as I thought I would be. So I think overall, I think that this is too hot of a take when it comes down to the overreactions. But then the next take, our defensive tackles are brutal. Now, I just kind of answered this one. I don't think that they're that bad. I don't think that they are brutally bad defensive tackles. And that's where I want to also kind of give praise to, I think that Blackson did well. I think that they penetrate and they have that penetrating style. Now, I think this is really good tape for the defense to go back and say, when you guys beat your man, what happens? When you blow past your guy, what happens to this play? Because I think you have great tape now to say, here's the gap in integrity. You got to stick on your guy, even though it looks like you could potentially get that. They're trying to get you off of that, and that's how a couple of the traps you saw someone kind of knife in, and then the lineman just kind of like let it happen, and then the running back just kind of goes and gets a bunch of yards. I think there's great tape to help coach this defense, but really defensive tackles haven't been as brutal as I thought that they would have. I wanted a little bit more out of Armon Watts. He was kind of my player of the game that I was hoping for, but still I thought that they aren't as bad as a lot of people make them out to be. Now, the last overreaction, and this is the last overreaction as a whole that I saw. The game just showed how bad the Bears actually are. And I disagree with this. I disagree with this take wholeheartedly because to me, I don't think that it's yet again, I kind of point back to the Green Bay Packers needed to win this game. And it's at home, a place that they do not lose a lot. And they need this. And I think that's where like whoever they were going to throw out there, they were going to beat, right? That's my feeling with this. And yeah, they did really well. I think it highlighted some inefficiencies on this offense and on this defense. Yes. But I don't think that it's now we're going back to we're only going to win 3 games now. You know, NFL media is going to be like, this is why, you know, you only need a monsoon. We're going to be hearing that narrative all week this week, right? It's going to be bad. So I don't think that the Bears are that this shows that the Bears are bad. I think that really just all it does is just shows that the Chicago Bears team needs to just kind of take a step up and that there are some inefficiencies that we just need to iron out. This is a young team that I think that the coaching, yet again, can show this and say, this is why you don't do this. And this is how we can get better. Young coaching staff and young players, this is what we got to do. You got to take some lumps. You got to do it, right? So I'm not worried about this. I'm on to next week. It's like, all right, we're gonna lose. Let's move on to next week. Nothing to see here, right? And just keep on going. But guys, we've gone through the offense and we've gone through the offense and we've gone through the defense. So now it leaves the special teams review. Got to go through the special teams. The cat, for those watching, is also pretty excited about that as well. But really, the special teams, I think that this highlights that we do need Velus back. And I'm going to bring back a comment from Reload out here. Like, we need Velus Jones back. Trestan Ebner did not look good out there. He looked slow. And now, do I think that he's terrible? No. But I just thought that he looked slow out there when he was returning some kicks. Dante Pettis, we didn't really get to see much of him out there. And Velus back there is a game changer. And Trestan Ebner, to me, I just haven't seen that. I've saw the game-breaking ability at Baylor, but Velus has shown that he has the game-breaking speed in the NFL in the limited snaps that we did see of Velus and from what we've seen at training camp as well. We need him back there. It'd be awesome to see him. But also, a couple other things too. Want to just bravo to Cairo Santos for making all of his kicks. That's really key because after a bad game, you just want to make sure that it's not anything mentally. So he hits his field goal, he hits his extra point. That's what you want to see out there. And we did also see Mega punted, booted one for 70 yards, which, bravo. But I think overall it was a solid, day of special teams. One thing, I still get nervous about Trenton Gill's kind of 3 steps to punt the football. Still seems like it takes a little long. I'm just nervous that someone's going to block the field goal soon. So something that I'm just a little bit nervous about, and hopefully you can kind of speed it up a little bit and get things going. But that's about it for our show. So we went through our 10 key takeaways. Yet again, we still broke down the game, but just wanted to kind of highlight those 10 key takeaways. But at the very end, I also want to go through player of the game. Who gets the vote for player of the game? Now, all those out on YouTube, make sure to just comment it down below. Who do you think was the player of the game, or your number one and number two? Because I'm pretty sure number one sticks out. Because number one to me is David Montgomery. David Montgomery, he just put the team on his back. And I think that's what's hard about this team is it takes an effort like a David Montgomery carrying the team, or Justin Fields doing crazy things to allow us to win. I just want a well-functioning offense where Fields can just sit in the backfield, right? And just throw the ball and get some yards. But David Montgomery to me is offensive, and Travis Gibson is defensive. I want three people to be out there that we can kind of highlight, but it really seems like those two were the best. But also, I'll give some credit to Jalen Johnson just because Jalen looked good. Jalen played well, and we didn't really even have to say his name much. And whenever he's out there, he's always trying to strip the ball. So, Jalen, bravo for what you do out there, and I'm just excited to have him on this team, and I'm excited that he's doing well with this new system. Ladies and gentlemen, we took an L. We took an L today, and honestly, it was kind of expected, right? I know that we were excited. I knew that we were pumped. But guys, next week we have the Houston Texans. You want to make sure to stay tuned with this show because I'm going to be posting the schedule out tomorrow, and we have an awesome week. So on Tuesday, we're going to be breaking down the Houston Texans. I'm getting someone that covers the Houston Texans to come on so you can ask questions about the Texans. It's going to be great. We're going to learn a lot about this Lovie Smith team. And also, is this a trap game? I brought this up in the season previews that they're a tough team. So we'll kind of break that down to see what they could potentially do. Then on Thursday, we're going to do our standard preview. And then Saturday morning, we're doing the Unbearable Sports Weekends again like we did last Friday. So we'll have you guys get your questions in. You can always email me at unbearablesports@gmail.com. Your questions that you want to ask. But we're getting Kenneth Davis from NBC Sports Chicago and the Under Center podcast. He will be on to answer all your questions. And I have some questions that I want to ask him too that are just some fun stuff. He's an awesome guy, and I'm excited to have him back on the show. But guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, I just make sure to also check out the shop. We're going to be taking the North. That's what we're going to be doing this year. And it's going to be a long season. But guys, we're going to see a lot of progression, and I can't wait for it. So with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.